Symbols functions as an alphabet of human thought, a universal means to convey messages without spoken or written words, devoid of educational or language barriers. Some of the first symbols used by civilizations were pictograms. A pictogram is an image that represents an object. Pictograms are useful for conveying information through a common visual language, able to be understood regardless of one's native language or degree of literacy. The American Institute of Graphic Arts played a pivotal role in the design and development of these symbols for modern use. The handicap symbol is a pictogram that we see every day. Chinese writing is composed entirely of pictograms, a system of writing used by more than any other country in the world. During the 2008 Olympics in China, the event's signage employed pictographs that echoed the style of Chinese language pictographs. An ideogram is a character or symbol representing a complete idea or concept. A good example is the familiar request is not to smoke in a specific area. The circle and bar configuration have acquired the universal meaning of no through use of acceptance. The rebus is a pictorial image that represents a spoken sound. Today, the rebus is mostly used for amusement. However, it was a critical link in the development of the phonetic alphabet, starting in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Phonogram. Technically, the term phonogram refers to a symbol that represents a spoken sound. Every letter in the Roman alphabet is a phonogram. A logogram represents more than a sound. It represents an entire word or idea. Logograms are commonly called ideograms. Graphic designers tend to use the term logo interchangeably to cover most visual marks. Logotypes, trademarks, and symbols. Technically, the term logotype means a symbol comprised entirely of typography. The Coca-Cola symbol is an example of a purely typographic logotype. Watermarks are decorative images embedded into the fibers of paper during the production process. The origin of a coat of arms came from the symbols displayed on the crest of a helmet or metal chest to help identify soldiers in a battle or jousting matches. Eventually, the images were moved off the helmet and chest plate and onto banners. The coat of arms, however, often retain the helmet reference as a part of the composition. Monogram is Greek for single line. In early European kingdoms, illiterate monographs signed documents with custom monograms. Today, a designer's monogram can increase the status to an everyday object and add value to the price. A purse, a screen, savior, etc. A visual program for displaying facts and quantitative information. The isotope system was born from research and theories of Otto Neurath. He believed in educating with picture language. In 1925, Neurath, while head of Housing Museum, initiated the Social and Economic Museum of Vienna. The museum's purpose was to educate the general public about post-war housing by creating displays of social information. The new venue afforded him an opportunity to showcase the intellectual and educational ideals using his symbol-based language, an alternative to written language. By the early 1930s, Neurath headed a team of 25 employees and divided into groups: data collectors, transformers, and graphic artists. While working at the museum, Neurath began his collaboration with Mary Reidemeister, who would later become his wife. Reidemeister was educated as a physicist, mathematician, and also had attended art school. She and fellow senior transformer Frederick organized the information into comprehensive formats in a role that would be described today as graphic designer. Corporate symbol pioneers. The word hallmark comes from the mark that trade guilds gave their products so they would be recognized. Guilds gave these marks so the consumers would know which product was made better or is cheaper. Instead of identifying local craftsmen, trademarks and hallmarks were used by the larger companies who shipped their product abroad. The 1875 Trademark Act made the product exclusively the company's and was basically a patent. Symbols and trademarks usually reflected the stylistic period during which they are created. Products were imprinted with both the workshop symbols and marks identifying each designer and craftsman involved in the production. The history of symbols. In 1951, William Golden of CBS TV's Advertising and Sales Promotion Department created the first symbol that was deliberately considered for how it would appear on screen. Several different stories arose for why Golden chose the eye according to the CBS website. Inspiration came to him while driving through Pennsylvania Dutch country. He became intrigued by hex symbols resembling human eyes that were painted on the Amish barns to ward off evil spirits. He found additional inspiration in Shaker art from 1850. His basic concept was to portray television's unblinking electronic eye. Early television was in black and white, and the resolution could be quite murky. Drawing letterforms that would remain readable under the worst-case scenario were experimented with. The same year that Jetsons first aired on ABC, the first animated logo was produced. Originally, NBC's logo was black and white animation, showed bars of glockenspiel. It was replaced in 1956 by the creation of New York designer Fred Knapp, who created the Peacock with help from John J. Graham of the NBC Art Department. The following year, Electra Film Labs of New York City created an animation that started with static bird that fanned out into a color spectrum. In 1985, the Peacock was hatched anew, stylish and strikingly simple, with the initials NBC added to it and specifically created lettering style by the New York branding powerhouse Chapman. He created the groundbreaking trailer of Otto's premiere, The Man with a Golden Arm. He was helped by Elaine Bass, his wife. He won the Oscar for his film, Why Man Creates. He created logo for Warner Communications, Bell Telephone, AT&T, Continental Airlines, Quaker Oats, and the Girl Scouts of America. Rob Janoff was the designer of the Apple logo. Steve Jobs' only direction was "Don't make it cute." He designed two versions. One without the bite, suggesting the bite for the scale so the apple would not be confused with a cherry. Only later did he learn that the computer term bite, so it ended up being clever. The original logo was released in 1977 with color stripes to broadcast the Macs had color screens, the first for personal computers. Landor and Associates were made updates in 1980s for its current form. Specialized themes such as Lantern Day in China or Martin Luther King Day in the US were displayed on the site specific to each nation's interests and culture. A physical symbol system, also called a formal system, takes physical patterns or symbols, combining them into structures, expressions, and manipulating them to produce new expressions. A physical symbol system has the necessary and sufficient means for general intelligent action, as stated by Newell. A symbol system is necessary for intelligence. Symbols are not useful in and of themselves, but rather are components of symbol systems. Symbols are patterns that provide access to distal structure. A symbol token is the occurrence of a pattern in a structure. Operations are processes that take symbol structures as an input and produce symbol structures as output. Interpretations are processes that take symbol structures as input and execute operations. Both are types of symbol systems. Branding and anti-branding. By the 1970s, businesses liked the advantages of corporate identity or comprehensive professional image. Graphic designers were designing logos as well as producing standard manuals. These manuals instructed corporate employees in the proper application of the logo, recommended typograph treatments, and color palettes. They also had pages of camera-ready art of the logo type and symbol in various sizes that could be cut and pasted onto layouts that were prepared for the printer. One of the manuals that stood out was the Citibank Identification Standards Manual, 1976. It was critically acclaimed due to its comprehensiveness and detail. Corporate identity is now just one part of the process known as branding. Branding extends beyond the mere application of a logo to the orchestration of the consumer experience at all points of interaction. The first brand management program started at Procter & Gamble. As a result of the famous internal memo by Neil McElroy in 1931, McElroy was frustrated by competition from the soap products as well as the P&G's own product. In 2010, the Gap clothing company ditched its new logo after only 1 week due to an online backlash. Some of the adjectives used by Gap's customers to describe its now axed logo, after less than a week, it has been consigned to the graveyard inhabited by rejected arrows, squiggles, and inadvertently offensive corporate emblems. Another example of a logo with negative association was experienced by McDonald's, with their overseas restaurants were damaged by protesters who used the golden arches as a representation of American capitalistic imperialism. Culture jamming is the act of using existing media such as billboards, bus ads, posters, and other ads to comment on those very media themselves or on society in general, using the original medium's communication method. It is based on the idea that advertising is little more than propaganda for established interests, and that there is a little escape from this propaganda in industrialized nations.